Will Reeves drag the entire nation down with her? Or will this be a rip-roaring success? And if so, for who? Let's speak with Councillor Martin Abrams, Green Party Councillor for Streatham. Good afternoon to you, Martin. Nice to have you with us, sir.
Good afternoon, Ian.
Now, I'm guessing there's probably some stuff in here that you guys over there at Green HQ are kind of all right with. And one of them would be the scrapping the two-child benefit cap, and the other would be taxing rich people a bit more.
Well, Ian, let's start with scrapping the two-child benefit cap. I mean, and let's call it the Tory two-child benefit cap, because we need to understand the context of when it was introduced under the Conservative Party. Yeah. But the Labour government have maintained the Tory two-child benefit cap that basically ensured that 700,000 children remain in poverty, in deep poverty, through absolutely no fault of their own. And you know, it breaks the link between what children need and the support they receive. And for the sixth richest country in the world, we should not be placing massive financial burdens on families. And let's bear in mind, because we need to break through the framing of people that claim child benefit and have more than two kids. You know, 1 in 9 children are affected by the two-child limit, and 59% of families affected by this cap have at least one parent working. You know, an increasing number of families these days are in work. And having the government and the state basically top up their poverty wages that are often paid by big multinational companies that should be paying higher wages to those on the lowest pay. But this is a good thing from the Labour Party if they do go ahead and scrap the two-child benefit cap.
I mean, there is. Can I just add in, Martin? I mean, you mentioned through no fault of their own, and you're absolutely right. It's no fault. Kids are kids. It's not their fault. But there is a. Surely there is a personal responsibility as well that's incumbent on all of us. And you're absolutely right. There's a big percentage of people that go to work. It's not that this is a sort of story about the work shy who just, you know, to coin those kind of horrible phrases that keep on breeding and other people pay for it. It's not that. It's just the fact that there's still such a thing as a responsibility, isn't there? And if you're struggling to, you know, feed a couple of kids, then the strong advice is that, you know, maybe not have another one. That's reasonable, isn't it? It's not all down to governments.
People's circumstances change, Ian, and they can change overnight.
They can.
You know, we've just seen the unemployment figures come out today with 5% unemployment rate. People are being made redundant. Their circumstances change. If they have a third child, then they should be able to claim child benefit for that child. And I'll go again.
So is there no cut-off? Is there no cut-off for that, where you say, look, the nation, we've got an incredible system. It's not perfect. It's better than some. It's not as good as others. I get all of that. But there is a point when you have to say, look, the state has an absolute duty. The government doesn't have any money. It only has other people's money. It's got an absolute duty to spend that fairly where they can. And there has to be a point when you say, look, we can't just say, look, there's money for this whenever and whatever your change of circumstances. We try to make it fit, but we're not always going to be able to do it. So we've settled on this two-child thing, which seems about reasonable. And of course, there are other circumstances that would explain some people's problem with having enough money. It isn't just down to the government, but you know, there's got to be a point where we have a cut-off, right?
Well, this is a tax on poverty, Ian. This is a tax that directly impoverishes those on the lowest income brackets. And how can, in a civilised society, that be okay? And I don't know if you've noticed, Ian, but the nation's birth rate is falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
Why are we taxing people for having more than 2 children? We need to be doing policies.
We're not taxing them, we're just not giving them other taxpayers' money.
Well, it is essentially a tax on having more than 2 children, Ian. And
it was a tax for everybody else, but not for them.
That has plunged hundreds of thousands of children into poverty through no fault of their own. In Lambeth, where I'm a councillor, we're having to close schools because there's not enough children to fill those schools.
That's
We're having to
extraordinary.
amalgamate schools because there's not enough children. That is it turning into a bit of a crisis. And you need to look at the deep-seated problems with that. That is the cost of living, which is affecting almost everyone in this country, apart from a small handful of the richest people at the top of society. And people are making a decision to have fewer kids, even though they might want them. We should not be forcing people into making these decisions.
But
there should be the conditions in this country, the sixth richest country in the world, where if people want a larger family, then they should be able to have a larger family.
Yeah, but so that they surely should make sure they can pay for a larger family. I mean, thank goodness for the rich old duffers at the top, because they're financing all of this. I mean, if they weren't there, we wouldn't even have we'd have a one-child benefit cap.
Well, I'll come again. 59% of these families are in working.
I get that, but if you got rid of this,
wages,
with respect though, Martin, even if
pay these people higher wages.
I get that, and there's lots you mentioned at the beginning.
And then the state would have to pay out a whole lot less in benefits to subsidise these poverty wages.
I understand that there are big companies.
This is basically corporate welfare, and we are paying and subsidising the poverty wages
I understand.
that these big companies are paying.
There are big companies that should be paying more money. I do understand that, but there are many circumstances. If you suddenly get rid of this two-child benefit cap, you're not going to eradicate child poverty. In fact, those numbers probably wouldn't move very much.
No, you're not.
At all.
But you are going to lift 700,000 children out of poverty, basically, very, very quickly. It's not going to eradicate poverty at all.
I mean, this is a sort of statistical construct thing, isn't it? I mean,
it's not. These are statistics from the Child Poverty Action Group.
And I don't dispute the Child Poverty Action Group would have those stats. But if you got rid of
better statistics than them.
Well, no, I'm arguing the case that I don't think you would eradicate 700,000 kids out of poverty by just removing this one cap.
It would their calculations and their statistics from a report that they've produced have worked out that 700,000 children would be lifted out of the deepest poverty in this country if the two-child benefit cap was lifted. We need to do it. The Labour government should have done it as one of their first policies. Instead, they maintained this cap. They even then suspended 7 Labour MPs that broke the whip to vote for scrapping this cap. I would argue what has changed for this Labour government to suddenly turn around. My theory is that they are now being pulled from the left by the Green Party, who are having a green surge.
So but ideologically,
they're having to react to the fact that the Green Party are now overtaking them in many polls.
But Martin, you and that fella Zach, and not just the two of you, but all the others as well, have kind of put a sort of socialist guns at the head of the Labour Party, metaphorically, obviously, and kind of forced them into this in many ways. And this is an area, of course, the welfare budget that this all comes under, that is completely unsustainable. I mean, it's unsustainable now, and it's going to be more unsustainable as we move through the ensuing years. And yet the bill is about to go up for something that we should be looking at, saying the bill's got to come down.
It's only unsustainable, Ian, if you completely ignore the fact that the richest 1% are hoarding about 50% of the nation's wealth. The richest 50 families...
They didn't steal it, Martin.
Well, they didn't steal it, but they are hoarding it. The richest 50 families in this country have over 50% of the wealth, which is just... When I even say that statistic, it just blows my mind.
But if you're, I don't know, if
those
you're
with
somebody,
the broadest shoulders,
but listen,
I know, should be paying way more.
I know all the left-wing cliches. I get all of that. But I mean, if you're, I don't know, Andy Murray or something, and you're a millionaire, multi-millionaire sports person because you flog tickets for people to watch you play tennis, you write your autobiography, you get a nice sponsorship from a TV commercial. You haven't taken that money from a poor person. You've earned that money yourself, and someone independently has given it to you.
Well,
we need more of those people, not fewer of them.
I don't know if we want to go into a deep and meaningful conversation about the capitalist theory on your show, Ian. But the Labour of people working is what makes the wealth for the richest in this country.
That is one way to looking at it through a funny part of the telescope.
It is working class people that create the wealth.
No, it isn't. It really isn't. It really isn't. My mum and dad, I'm from a working class background. My dad painted rich people's houses for a living. He used to shin up ladders in cold weather, painting the houses of the dukes and the God knows who else, and people who had a few quid. He wasn't there because of those people whose houses he was painting. He was painting people's houses who created jobs. They created wealth. And there's no system in the world that is more proven than capitalism to have taken more people out of poverty anywhere on planet Earth than capitalism. I'm sure you're ready for that question, but you would agree with me, Martin. Show me a better system that has worked.
Well, listen, I'm not going to go into a debate.
But where is it? When you mentioned capitalism, where is a better system? Capitalism. Where is a better system that's worked? Where in the country?
Listen,
in the world.
When capitalism is such a dominant system, any alternative system that tries a different approach is then viciously attacked by those that want to preserve capitalism. So
you're saying it like it's a dirty. I mean, we have a hybrid, don't we? We've got a National Health Service, so there is a socialised system. Our education system is a socialised system in that respect, but we also have.
And isn't it funny that some of those systems are the most popular things in this country? And the National Health Service,
well, I don't know about today.
Healthcare free at the point of use is one of the crown jewels.
Well,
of British society.
kind of. I mean, it's not a religion. It's a service we pay for. I mean,
it is always.
But no one's
one of the most popular public services.
No one's copied it around the world, Martin.
Public ownership of our utilities. If you poll people and you ask, would you like our water to be owned for the public interest or for private profit, almost everyone says they want it run in the public interest. Okay, I challenge you to find any public service in this country that has been run under the capitalist system that has actually worked. I will challenge you, Ian, to state that.
Yeah, well, I would mention telecoms being the obvious one. I would mention
what?
Telecoms being the obvious one, yes.
What? British Telecom?
Yeah, British Telecom, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that has been basically fragmented to such an extent that people are having to pay thousands and thousands of pounds for a service that really should be free at the point of use.
So you think everything should be free? Like you're like the mayor of New York. Everything should be free, childcare free, phone free.
Vital public services. There should be a universal
They've got to be paid for, though. They've got to be paid for, Martin.
Yeah, okay, and that's what we talk about wealth taxes. Okay,
they can't pay for everything. They can't pay for everything. Well, there won't be any wealthy if you tax them out their pants.
I think when you've got billionaires and trillionaires now, with Elon Musk becoming the world's first trillionaire. You know, how could you justify that as being a productive thing?
Well, that's between him and shareholders of Tesla, isn't it? I mean, I find that a bit weird. I have to say,
it is obscene. It is obscene, and the amount of wealth that the richest in society hoard could be redistributed and pay for things like free broadband for people.
Well, I don't know if you could do free everything, but all I would say is I think there is a misconception that, I mean, telecoms, when British Telecom came along, we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all of those other things.
Always impossible until it's done, Ian. It's always impossible until it's done.
I'm making the point that when the state runs something, it doesn't necessarily make it cheaper, and it doesn't necessarily make it more efficient. It might make us feel good in the pit of our bellies, and someone like yourself, Martin, might go, we own all of this, but it doesn't mean it's going to be more reasonable on price or service.
The terrifying prospects of our National Health Service being privatised.
Who's going to privatise the NHS?
Actively being talked about.
Talked about by who?
It's being talked about by reform politicians.
No, they've talked about
creating an insurance-based system,
like France or Germany,
essentially privatising it off.
No, it's not. What about France or Germany? No, France, Germany, Australia, Ireland, all these countries.
France and Germany have a healthcare system that much of it is run by private sector.
Yeah, and it's free from cradle to grave. It's still free. Go to Poland, it's still free.
As part of an insurance-based system.
So what? It's still free.
And better
outcomes.
The one country you didn't mention there, which is the United States of America, which also runs on an insurance-based system.
But why do you go there? Why do you pick the America when there's about 170?
Because that's the model that Reform want to use.
They've never said that. No one in Reform has ever said. No, they haven't. They've talked about an insurance policy.
When did you become a Reform spokesperson, Ian?
I became a spokesperson for what is true and what is not true.
No.
Nigel Farage was caught on a video about 38 years ago talking about an insurance-based system. That's not the American system.
Nigel Farage is obsessed with the United States of America.
I agree. He likes the United States.
He's weirdly obsessed with Donald Trump to the point of deep concern. He's weirdly obsessed with the models of healthcare that they use. He's talking about having an ICE kind of immigration Gestapo to deport people. He's weirdly obsessed with the United States of America, and I would not go near the United States of America.
But you're probably, I mean, I don't know you, Martin. You're probably a bit obsessed with Fidel Castro, for all I know. I don't know, but I'm making the point that different people in different parts of the political spectrum can have models that they look at and say, I believe that runs better, and the electorate can decide whether they agree with it. That's democracy, right?
No, I've got no strong feelings about Castro. I've got strong feelings about people like Bevan that created our NHS, or Attlee that built millions of council houses.
The Tories actually, the Tories proposed the NHS, of course, in the White Paper.
Yeah, but then they voted against it.
Well, they didn't vote against it; they were voted out of office. So
it wasn't the Tories that created the NHS.
Henry Willink was the health minister who had the first White Paper for the NHS.
It was proper socialists that would not stand a chance in today's Labour Party. They would probably be.
Mate, listen, on that point, Martin, maybe there is a reason for that. Listen, lovely to speak with you, and lock horns amicably as well. Councillor Martin Abrams, Green Party, that's a surprise, isn't it? Green Party councillor for Streatham. Thank you to him. This is Talk.